Hello, we're live. I'm just unable to connect my microphone. There we go. The microphone is connected, ladies and gents, and we are here for CRL Season 4, Round 5 of the Legends Div. Unfortunately, for the sake of you long-term fans, it's typically Brian, also known as Jedi, hosting, but today you've got me because PSGL is on off season, so I've got nothing on a Monday, and also he may or may not have been a bit clumsy and got some caramel syrup in his eye while at work, so therefore he is half blind, thus current. But irrespective of that, we are about to start qualifying. 18 minutes of action. During those 18 minutes, I'm going to go for about 2 of them for a drink. It will most likely be the next 2 while everyone goes out for an outlap. However, that's your introduction done, and I'll be with you hopefully in time for the first set of flying laps. Hello ladies and gents, sorry for that abrupt period of silence. I am back. No, I'm not late, Thomas. I literally said at the start I was going to go and grab a drink, bud. So yeah, never late, and shouldn't be here in the first place. But anyways, a driver who shouldn't be here is your mum. They in fact came in last minute to try and boost numbers. Then we somehow went from 7 to 15 in about 2 hours. But irrespective of that, the Mercedes working their way up towards turn 3. It's a little bit of a hill climb, deploying all their battery, and sets the best sector we have seen today. Unfortunately though, that is the first sector we have seen today, hence why the 16.1 is the current fastest as things stand. Down the hill, however, towards turn 4, just try and kiss that apex, then shimmy the Mercedes out wide, get back onto power and use the overtake towards the end of the middle sector. Now is the momentum in their favour? It does look so, as it's 2 purple sectors. Of course, the first driver to do 2 valid sectors, so with all the positives does come one big negative, and unfortunately it is the fact that that sector has been the first one done. However, for your mum over the line, and it's a 1 minute 5.1 to kick start this qualifying session. You've got Thomas James now rounding out the final corner in the Aston Martin. What will it be? It'll be a 1 minute 5.177, just ever so slightly quicker for them. You have got I'm trying to work out a car on track. It's a Ferrari of Ivanchek round the final corner up to the start finish line. Can they put in a lap? That is third, a 1 minute 5.3 for them. Then you look down to Small Octopus, who really is becoming quite timid and shy here, having a little offing there. Then you do have a Racing Bulls of your championship leader, Rocco. He's unfortunately invalidated his lap. That's put him down in the dumps. Hi Hello Ye also invalidated his lap. So naturally we poise our eyes over to Nico, who is going slow. UFRT Racing is also not on a push. However, there was talk and speculation of not finishing this qualifying, as we've got Burger Boy round the final few corners into the pit. He goes after making a big mistake in the penultimate corner, so it's GDA Beast up next in the Alpine, as off goes Small Octopus. Once more, the Haas having a little bit of an offing in turn 4, but the fastest first and second sector we have seen so far this session for the Alpine. Rounding the final two corners, what can they do as the two McLarens do 1 minute 12 and 1 minute 19, just showing how poor of a lap they had. But GDA Beast, a 1 minute 4.7 for them. You've got Rocco on a flyer this time, getting the lap pinned round the final corner. Keep it clean and up to the line using the DRS. What will it be for Rocco? It'll be a 1 minute 4.6 for them. Hi Hello Ye up next, also invalidated once more. KZ Matty in the Aston Martin, no stranger to starting towards the front end of the pecking order. Over the line for the Aston, and it's a 1 minute 4.3 for them. You've got Pasty Smasher going into the pit lane now. Small Octopus also working their way there, as they just found themselves in the pit entry wall. As Hi Hello Ye working his way around the track quite slowly. Turbo round the final corner, trying to get up to the line. What's this going to be? It's definitely an improvement. It's a 1 minute 6.8 for them. You've got to love Nico crossing the line, invalidated as his teammate in the pit lane. So therefore 6 minutes down, and 6 drivers yet to put in a time this session, which does say quite a bit about the track limits. It's not the easiest of tracks to negate track limits round. However, Tugger starting a flying lap now, working their way up towards turn 1, as I believe your mum is giving them a unlawful tow, but also possibly even starting their own lap. There are some harvest and none, but it is clear they're giving their teammate that tactical tow up towards turn 3. Racing says he unfortunately invalidated by cutting turn 3, as Tugger sets the absolute best first sector the game doesn't know until everyone's set one. So we will just have to say that the game thinks it's the best out there so far. And now round turn 6 down towards turn 7, as Burger Boy says his setup is 6 months old, and hence why there's some struggle and woe for the Williams driver, but it's still got plenty of time to have a lap put into place. As Tugger up to the line, it's a 1 minute 5.8 for that Mercedes driver. Ivan Shek working his way round on an invalidated outlap. You gotta love Nico, I think, is also on a push of some form, deploying battery here and there. He's 1.488 seconds up. So this is going to work. No, it won't. Invalidated through turn 8, and that will definitely be their first run of the evening gone to a waste, as that is definitely a shame, invalidating when finding so much time. But for Ivanchek, he's going to work his way to the end of the first sector. Small Octopus has had an offing. You can see just up ahead the Haas has somehow found himself beyond the gravel trap, down towards turn 4 for the Scuderia, the sole Scuderia here today. That means everything is on them. They're sitting 5th in the championship, 2 points ahead of Williams in the Constructors, 14 behind Red Bull, who's only got one man, and that one man is in 8th, whilst Aston Martin has a 13-point advantage over Mercedes. That team, after half of qualifying, currently 1 and 2. So they are looking at extending today, but for Ivanchek, he's trying to give Ferrari as much hope to breach that top 4 as possible over the line. It's a 1 minute 5.3 for them. It's a slight gain, but only enough to put it into P6. You have a Red Bull starting a flyer. You have Hi Hello Ye working his way through the middle sector, whilst I believe Your Mum and Rocco are both on pushers of their own. Your Mum not on a flyer, as Thomas James saying that the Hassel Small Octopus, despite supposedly being small, did get in their way. For Rocco, however, 4 tenths up after the middle sector, it's enough to possibly put themselves onto provisional pole. So we'll see what the Racing Bulls can do round the final corner up to the start finish line. Now, what's it going to be for the Croatian? It will be provisional pole. It's a 1 minute 4.102. Hi Hello Ye over the line, a 1 minute 6. At least he has now got a lap on the board. But Burger Boy hoping to also put a lap on the board. 13th as things stand, a 15.7 after the first sector of the lap. So it is definitely looking semi-decent for them, getting a little bit of a slipstream off of the papaya as they now goes down the hill. As Your Mum praising one of the Williams and their teammate of Tugger for giving him a helpful tow down the back straight, but Burger Boy setting the first 2 sectors alight. It is looking absolutely wonderful for the Williams team. I'm pretty sure they won the Constructors last season. To be fair, I'm not the manager of the div, so I can't tell you exactly. But this is their redemption arc, and it's pole. It's a 1 minute 3.5 for the Williams, 6 tenths clear of Rocco as things stand. As MM7 Racing, not MM7, MM Racing is on for a lap. Whilst you also have, you've got to love Nico working their way through the middle sector, hoping to find some time. They're finding 2.2 seconds. It's definitely plentiful of time. Could this maybe be a lap to put them in amongst that top 5 in this qualifying session? Their teammates working way down to turn 4, whilst Nico around the final corner, they go wide and invalidate it when they could have finally had a lap on the timing tower. It all falls to bits as KZ Matty up next. Can they compete against Burger Boy? They'll do a 1 minute 3.8, a stellar effort, just shy of being able to do it. But MM Racing heading around the final 2 corners, it's definitely looking imperious for the McLaren. The team in 9th in the Constructors over the line, and it's going to be second. It's a 1 minute 3.752 for them. A stupendous lap from the Williams of Burger Boy, though, is the key factor in this qualifying session. I was going to say the pivotal pole, but that just did not make any form of grammatical sense. But it was a pivotal factor in what's determining this grid thus far. But for Aston Martin, they are rather enjoying themselves. They've got Matty 4th and Thomas James 7th in the championship. Thomas James only done 3 races. He scored at least 6th or higher in every single race, whereas KZ Matty, he's got, out of the 3 races he's done this season, a podium in 2 of them and P4 in the other. So definitely does show that they've got quite a bit in their bank. As Thomas James over the line hoping to cash in. No, only 5th, as I believe they are now starting a proper push as GDA Beast working through turn 1. It's going to be interesting because he's got DRS on the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin, as far as I'm aware, is also on a push lap. He's 19 thousandths down. He's not going to back down against GDA, but GDA can definitely be poising for invalidation as round goes the Alpine. The Aston Martin almost walks away effortlessly, as it'll be interesting to see what the Alpine does say about that, because they could try and reason in that, like, impeding and all that jazz. But in reality, we saw the sector times. Thomas James wasn't finding time, but was on par with setting a lap that either matched or went quicker, as Burger Boy joking around with Racing, saying the Papaya is currently sandbagging. Thomas James really trying to drop those sandbags, putting himself just 2/10 shy of Rocco Lieben, then invalidates turn 1 just for good measure. Your Mum working their way up to the end of the first sector. It's 2.6 down. Looks like it's a double banker for them in the Mercedes. You've got Turbo out on track in the Red Bull. They've invalidated their run. Small Octopus currently limping around. Maybe this is their chance to take a lap. They're in low fuel mode, but they're still going to cross the line to set a time. They are definitely going to run out of fuel come the next time they cross, but at least they have got a 55.448 in the bag. Jesus Christ, I don't think I've ever seen a lap slower than that in time trial. But irrespective of that, the times are definitely dropping down, as just give me 2 secs, and now we are back. I was just sorting out location of a channel for this driver, as Pasty Smasher not on a push, but Your Mum is on a push. You can see the battery pack being absolutely drained on this lap so far. The Mercedes giving it all that they've got, as Thomas James moaning about someone being in AI mode, as I think it's also happened with Your Mum here, who's 9/10 down. Just can't get past this man who is actually driving in AI mode, as Your Mum is just going to dip for the pit lane. That's a shame for them. But for Hello Yee, there's a Haas going round, and the Williams taking evasive action, ending up in the wall as Turbo has retired from qualifying out on track. So that will be a race ban for the Red Bull. But that was mighty close for Hello Yee, who's just drove it straight into a wall. That is definitely not professional whatsoever, as it looks like 2 possible quali bans could be on the way, as that is just a shame for the Williams driver. But we can look at Shankly, who has yet to set a lap as Burger Boy, finding 31 thousandths, but Racing round the final corner in the Papaya. What can they do here? Up to the line, and it's no improvement for them. You gotta love Nico, currently sitting P5. GDA Beast has gone off and crashed. Your Mum has retired in the pit lane. As for Nico, he is finding a bit of time, but Ivanchek round the final corner, he's invalidated their lap. You're going to have a Mercedes round the final corner as well, half a second up, 6/10 up, and that's going to be P9 for them, as the Haas unable to find a quicker time, with Burger Boy just crossing, not finding the time in the end. Shankly goes to 9th, gets just enough time for another flyer, as qualifying has came to close. You've got Thomas James on a push, but you've also got Nico unfortunately unable to find anything, but Matty pushing round with his teammate just behind. They're hoping to be near enough unanimous in what they do here in qualifying. As Hi Hello Yee says, his will is gone, apparently. So, for him, that's all up in the air. As there's an Aston Martin off. Shankly has retired. Everyone pretty much retiring out on track in this qualifying session. KZ Matty goes to third, however. Rocco invalidated. He'll be fourth. Thomas James will have to settle for fifth. But in the debut for Burger Boy, it will be pole position. It'll be a prized pole position for Williams as well. As Racing saying he is a dog shit driver. If he's dog shit, I don't know what the hell that Haas doing a 155 is. But qualifying is over. It's Burger Boy lining up on pole. Then it's Racing in second. Matty third. Rocco fourth. Nico fifth. Thomas James sixth. Your Mum seventh. GDA Beast eighth. Shankly ninth. Tugger in 10th. Then it's Ivanchek, Pasty Smasher, Hi Hello Yee, Turbo, and then Small Octopus for that. Shankly has just shown a clip of him nearly losing it on an out lap. As I've been asked by Small Octopus, am I entertained? Yes, I am. Because that is some very questionable qualifying pace. If that is to say anything, I think we are in territory where we can bet on whether the Haas driver could get lapped within the first 3 laps of this race. It would break CRL records. To be fair, that guy's already broke a record for the biggest margin between pole and last in CRL history, and also the biggest margin between the back 2 in qualifying in CRL history. So bear that in mind. A few records have been broken today for CRL. That's good, but then at the same time it's quite bad because they are very much unwanted records here in CRL. So without further ado, we will go racing in a few moments. As your ready up time for this race is bang on past the hour. So yeah, 35-ish laps of action as Thomas James has just disconnected from the session, which is very much not ideal. They're all going at each other over readying up because Thomas James, of course, having a disconnection. But this beeping you can now hear shows that we are about to go racing for CRL Season 4 Round 6 here in Austria. It's Burger Boy versus Racing, then Matty and Rocco in the front 2 rows. It's 5 red lights, and they're all gone. So are the drivers. Burger Boy versus Racing. The Papaya versus the Williams, a very unknown line up on that front row, but it's going to be Burger Boy who goes round the outside and takes the lead of this race very early on. He manages to fend off his pole position, but not for long, as the Papaya looking to the inside, looking to the outside, trying to make some space, as there's Nico to the inside against Rocco. Round goes Rocco, and that is definitely going to stir up a very big conundrum for the championship leader down to P11, as there's Matty round the outside of Burger Boy, the pole sitter, almost down to P3 on the opening lap. KZ Matty mangling his way round the outside of the Williams and up to the inside for turn 6. Surely that is job done, but Burger Boy trying to keep the throttle pinned as much as possible. The Aston Martin effortlessly having to yield for third, almost as if he didn't have a chance to try. And now GDA Beast in the Alpine all over the back of them. Alpine have had a fairly up and down season. There's been some races where they've scored tons, some races where they've only scored 5. Really does show the epitome of CRL here. But for Matty, this is crucial. The main driver, Aston Martin, currently sitting in third. That will guarantee 20 points. As long as Rocco does not finish in the top 12, he does take home at least 1 point, as there is Nico, who did hit, I believe, the Aston Martin, now being swallowed up by the field. Thomas James and your mum overtaking the McLaren. The McLaren, however, holding to the inside as they end up sideswiping Thomas James, under braking, and off goes Nico, the Papaya, down to P10. The South African really not enjoying life, as Small Octopus has just retired on track, and that has brought out a virtual safety car in this race, and you'll never guess who has disconnected once more. That is Thomas James, who really is not enjoying himself. But there are your possible strategies. We will put the tyres up for you lot as Nico into the pits. Is that going to be retirement for the McLaren? Burger Boy has joined. He also disconnected. Small Octopus has left. Nico has just taken the 10 seconds. He's changing front wing. Surely it's a DNF for the McLaren. But Racing is currently your leader. Nico committing, however, he's actually, never mind, I spoke too soon, as Nico is now out of the race. What was 15 a mere lap and a half ago, it's now only 13. But yeah, we are about to go racing once more. It's Racing versus Burger Boy. First versus second. They started on the front row. They've stayed that way. However, there's been a shake-up behind. But Burger Boy trying to pounce immediately against the Papaya, as it's all kicking off between the McLaren and the Williams. They work their way down the hill towards turn 9 and then turn 10. But for the sake of this race, we enter lap 4 in the inverted order of your front row. But that does not mean we are not going to have a battle on our hands, as these two drivers will be giving it absolutely everything, knowing as reserves every point means everything for them, as Burger Boy to the inside against Racing. The Papaya trying to hold on against the outside, doing a little bit of a switcheroo on the exit, seeing whether or not it works, as down the field does go GDA Beast. I think he's had a little moment going for a little spin, as the Papaya trying to fight back round the outside for turn 4. Surely they've got it done against the Gulf painted Williams, but it's not all there yet. Through turn 6 down towards turn 7, and Racing will be back into your leaders. There's Burger Boy going full on sideways. KZ Matty through. Your mum will also be going through on those hards. The leader of those on the hardest compound tyres here. But third place now for the Mercedes. They're 12 points behind Aston Martin in the constructors fight. They will need these points, and I am guaranteeing you that those points are going to start coming in at no time. GDA Beast has retired from the race. It's all been abysmal for them, but for these drivers, as long as they make it to the start finish line, they are going to take home points. As there's Pasty Smasher versus Ivanchek. We've seen them collide and crash before in Singapore. This time, however, nothing happening there, as Burger Boy going around the outside of Your Mum, looking effortless as the Williams regains third place. Shankly versus Rocco, the Sauber getting back ahead against the Racing Bulls, who will charge to the inside like a poison dart, being poised on their target, and unfortunately he managed to pick his poison at the perfect time and promotes himself up into P6. But Shankly is not going to yield there. The Sauber all over the back of the Racing Bulls, getting so close, but unfortunately it is unable to regain the place. But they'll use the DRS advantage towards turn 1. They're going to have a look, but they know that there's 2 more DRS zones, all conjoined with one another, with detection points at the end of each one to give you it for the next straight. So Shankly to the inside, but Rocco is now going to get DRS for the next straight. So what looked like pandemonium for the Sauber really has become the epitome of horror. And now Rocco to the inside, and what was a move into turn 6 a lap ago becomes a move into turn 4 this lap. But Rocco is going to have to fend off into turn 6 on the inside. The Sauber making the switchback, giving us absolutely wonderful battles here in Austria, in the Alps, as the Sauber working their way down the hill right behind the Racing Bulls, just like they were a lap ago, as they are not giving each other a singular inch of room. But you can see there Thomas James, Burger Boy and Your Mum having a little bit of a duel. Burger Boy getting very wobbly on the exit. The Aston Martin now alongside the Williams driver, who works their way up towards turn 3. He looked to the inside, he's now gone to the outside. Is it going to be the Aston Martin through? No, it's going to be Burger Boy around the outside of Your Mum. Your Mum able to fend off, but a bit further behind is Shankly, who has now got ahead of Rocco Lieber once more. Burger Boy using DRS to get ahead of Your Mum, and that is game over for the fight in terms of third place. But Rocco to the inside for turn 4, just like last lap, and last lap it ended up failing and reverting to a cycle, which is happening again as Rocco once more fending off the inside for turn 6, and Shankly trying to pull off a switchback. A magnificent battle between a departing driver and your championship leader, even though Rocco is the man leading the charge into the second half of the season. He really does not look comfortable in sustaining 6th place, as the Sauber still remaining all over the back of the Racing Bulls. It's almost like they're stuck to the bottom of his shoe like a piece of gum, which I can tell you everyone hates, and the championship leader is certainly hating it, to say the least, as now the Sauber to the outside towards turn 3. Rocco not bothering in defence because he knows he's going to get DRS back down the hill. But the question will be, will he be able to get by, as Ivanchek and Tuggo right behind him, giving us another battle between them, another instalment of this fight for 8th. As Turbo to the inside, you've got Shankly and Rocco swapping, but you've got the Red Bull making a move on the Mercedes, as Shankly this time on the inside against Rocco. We are seeing an inverted formation of the last few laps, as Rocco manifests it round the outside, and that is P6, and the championship leader giving us absolutely everything here today, as Theo giving a reason of retirement just so he can try and get away with the penalty as such. But Rocco P6, Shankly P7, as the race starting to pipe up is the best way to put it, as Shankly once more ahead of Rocco, and into the braking zone it's going to be Rocco who gets DRS on the Sauber driver as they work their way down the hill. Turbo's had a little moment, he's dropped off from the back of this group, but your championship leader again on the outside against Shankly. You've got Ivanchek just pulling away from Tugger and Pasty Smasher. One Sauber's fighting your championship leader, whereas the other driver is fighting one of the two drivers in the car that's sitting second in the championship. So two big battles for the manufacturer in 8th place. As things stand, Sauber really are enjoying consistent points in CRL. I can be straight up with you because they've scored in in every single race that they've done this Legends Div season, and even in Elite Div they've scored in every race they've done there as well. But unfortunately it's 8th in one and 10th in the other, just showing how competitive these divisions are for constructors wise, as there's Shankly to the inside against Rocco's Turbo having another offing. That is not what you want to be seeing in the Red Bull whatsoever when you've only got one man racing today. It is a must win race for them, because they are going to start walking themselves into a very dangerous position here. They're 16 off Racing Bulls, 14 clear of Ferrari. That could become nada come the end of today's race, as your mum in 3rd place. As Thomas, if you want to negate a seat, don't do it while commentating, do it afterwards, maybe DMs or public channels. That's more mature and more efficient, as Shankly 3 second time penalty, but he's going to have a massive spurt of energy, an elixir of life that will push himself up into P4. But for Thomas James and Tugger, they are in the pit lane. They are the first to pull the undercut in this race. KZ Matty has already pitted though, so the Astons looking near enough unanimous in strategy choices. There is Shankly defending Rocco, as Matty has just got ahead of Pasty Smasher. He will be poised on Ivanchek next. Can the championship competitor overtake the Croatian in nearly no time? As there's Shankly again fighting Rocco, which is very concerning for Rocco, because you have to see it in the sense that your championship leader is being pursued by the man in 4th in the championship. He's 27 points behind entering today, and currently Matty is almost a pit stop clear as Racing into the pits. He's putting an undercut on Burger Boy to try and stand their ground and extend as much of a deficit as possible against the Williams in this race to make life a living hell. But the question will be, where will the Papaya come out compared to the Aston? There'll be rule to rule going over the line, but it's going to be the Aston who's ahead. You can see the British Racing Green roaring ahead, but Racing looking to the outside of the Aston as Rocco trying to pull off a switchback on Shankly, as Matty and on the scene immediately. Shankly swerving straight to the inside to try and fend the place off. Rocco to the inside, but you can see there the Papaya trying to go around the outside. It almost goes forward pressed as Matty gets past Rocco. Off goes Racing. He's going to have to drop down to 6th. He's going to have to skin and bear that, as Ivanchek almost got collected in that conundrum. But for Rocco, it's been absolutely manic for him. He's not had any luck whatsoever this race. His largest points haul came with 4th in, I believe it's 5th in Bahrain, and today he's looking at hardly even breaking that top 6 in Austria. It is definitely a championship that is falling apart for him. However, you've just had Racing overtake Shankly, and now his next competitor is KZ Matty, the Aston Martin, who is definitely on a charge in this race. But can the McLaren regain what is the provisional lead in this race, as your mum on the hards trying to extend as long as possible. And that is Racing just getting ahead of the Aston Martin. Burger Boy about 10 seconds down the road from these two. So it looks like a two-way fight for your win today. But we've had relentless warfare for the lower places. Ivanchek swapping around with Pasty Smasher for P10 just there on the exit of turn 4. Fair play as your mum into the pits on lap 13. So is it a two-stopper in this race? It definitely does look like a liable option, as now we just continue to wait for the chaos, as looking to the inside is Ivanchek on turbo. Your mum has came out the pit lane just behind Burger Boy. The Ferrari fends to the inside, doesn't get threatened too much. However, for the two Mercedes, 7th and 8th in this race, it's definitely some points, but if you look at their points haul throughout this season, that is merely anything. They did have 8 points in the sole sprint race so far, but then they've scored 25, 22, 14 and 32. It's been quite a strong showcase for the most part of this season, whereas Aston Martin, who rightfully lead the championship by 12 points, pointless in round 1 at Monza. Then it was 34 points, 12 points, 38 points and then 29. They've been on a right old rampage in that first half of the season, as Rocco and Shankly now pit. They're sharing what looks to be pretty much identical strategies, just different tyres, as Thomas James has surprisingly pulled off an undercut on Burger Boy and your mum. So it's a double Aston Martin podium. Will Thomas James be able to fend this off is the question. He will need to do everything he can to damage Williams' chance on closing in, but Burger Boy to the inside against the Aston. The Aston will try and pull off the switchback, hold the inside through turn 5. Unfortunately though, it will be the Williams just gliding their way up into 3rd place, as Hi Hello Yee just sitting in 12th really hasn't had a race to remember as such. Because I'll be honest, I've seen them in many places, WERL, here, you name it, and they have definitely had some brighter sparks out on the track. As unfortunately for him, getting lapped by his teammates on their teammates' debut is definitely a bittersweet feeling for Burger Boy, knowing that his teammates just so far off the pace on the first round of him appearing, to a point where he's 3rd and his teammates in the last point scoring position of the race. But once again, you look at it for Racing, they're about, 20-ish seconds off of Turbo in this race, who is the next car to get lapped, who is a further 20 off of this fight over P6, because you have Tugger 6th and then Shankly and Rocco, who's been swapping all race along. Then you even have Pasty versus Ivanchek, talking about Ivanchek trying to move up into 9th against Pasty Smasher. Saubers trying to give themselves that extra boost in terms of points. They will be aiming at overtaking Alpine in the Constructors after today, putting them up into 7th place, which will be, surprisingly, the highest in which they've ever been this season. So it's definitely some positive groundwork, as Shankly to the inside against Tugger, and Rocco going and deciding that he must make the move, with Ivanchek holding the inside against Pasty Smasher, unable to get past the Sauber. So the Racing Bulls to the outside of Shankly lobbing it round the long way, trying to make sure it works. Unfortunately though, for the Racing Bulls on the harder compounded tyres, the traction of those mediums being still quite ripe and fresh, being able to prevail in such circumstances, as Matty starting to drop off from the McLaren 2-lap undercut, really now starting to bite them back, as the tyre delta between them starting to show in true effect. But Rocco ahead of Shankly, Shankly using DRS, Tugger is staying nice and tucked, nice. Why am I repeating what I'm about to say? Nicely tucked in behind these two as they go swapping up towards turn 3. Surely we're going to get another swap this lap as Rocco trying to swap it to the inside. He'll get DRS this time round, as Braconnier inviting me to play F1 when it's like, no, I'm doing this. And there is the Racing Bulls up into P6 as the Sauber drops to P7. He'll hold the outside for turn 6 however, and unfortunately doesn't manage to move around the outside and make it work. So Ivanchek versus Pasty Smasher, 7 tenths between them, 9th and 10th on the line in this race. Not major, I'll be honest, but every little helps, as Tesco's would say, as this race really starting to drag on a bit for some drivers. They are probably not enjoying life being stuck behind one another, because Shankly and Rocco have been fighting from as long as time goes back. Here today, we of course started 52 minutes ago, and Rocco looked like he was clear of the Sauber. He had so much more pace in qualifying, but just unable to defeat the Sauber in race trim, to a point where he's having to fight into the inside for turn 6. It's the same moves every lap, but the same old just doesn't work. It near enough becomes immune at this point. So these guys will have to try and use their finite IQ to think of something different and pull that off, because the DRS swapping into turn 3 and then turn 4 and then ending it in turn 6 really is not changing the way that the grain is growing. As yellow flags for Turbo, who has found his Red Bull round. He is getting it back underway, however, and that is P11 as Shankly to the inside. Rocco on the outside, he's going to get DRS on the Sauber. They're going to have to try and use their battery to get past the green machine towards turn 4. Rocco round the outside, and that is P6. I do think he did slightly different this time round with poising it more to the outside on the exit, having a wheel alongside, and now you can just see that advantage growing to about 8 tenths, the largest we've probably seen between those two in this race so far. But Shankly again, he'll get the DRS out of the penultimate corner and then onto the main straight. But is the DRS going to be strong enough? It keeps him within a second, as Shankly is starting to look like his hopes are diminishing, because he's going to have to use all his might to get past into turn 4. Otherwise it may be Rocco's place, because he drops it to half a second. Then you get this DRS zone, of course. He's only got about 18% of battery, and he's using every last nip and gram of it, to a point where he looks to the inside, doesn't manage to go to the inside. So it's going to be Rocco who holds on to P6 in this race. Can he now put his foot to the floor and run away with it? Or is it going to be a very personal dilemma for Rocco. Does he have to pit early, or does he have to try and throw off Shankly with an ambitious move in a different place? Because the Sauber just staying close enough. He's dropped the gap this time round. It's just going back and forth a bit like a yo-yo. As out of turn 1, Ivanchek racking up the penalties. He's becoming a penalty maestro today. You can even have a look at penalties. 12 seconds for Ivanchek. No one else has more than 6. Your mum being that drive on 6. Then you have Matty, Thomas James, Shankly, Tugger and Pasty all on 3. But for Ivanchek, that is adamant for P10. Meaning, as long as Pasty doesn't throw it away, he's going to come home P9. But now once more Shankly holding on to that deficit. Is he going to be within a second though? He's just dropped out of it, entering the penultimate corner. He's going to have to close it in here. He's not going to. So Rocco has finally escaped the DRS threat of Shankly, and now it does look like the Racing Bulls could just set off on his journey. But is this where Shankly turns around and puts on the hards and does 13 odd laps on them to the end? Because that will undercut Rocco. Rocco's either then going to have to go, okay, I'm going to the end, or he pits and reacts, putting him off his ideal strategy. So plenty to think about for these two. Of course, Rocco, your championship leader, he should know what's best for his race, as Matty into the pits with a little bit of a drift and a slide, as Burger Boy now up to second, your mum up to third. However, we are such a way from the end. We still have about a third of this race to run, as Matty coming out of the pits right behind Thomas James. Surely Thomas James is going to give KZ a slingshot down or even up this hill and not make it too difficult whatsoever for his teammate, who is trying to keep his fighting chances alive against MM Racing, who has just walked away in this second half. Matty DRS on Thomas James to the outside, and through they go up to P4, and Thomas James just making life nice and easy for his teammate, knowing what he's gonna do in this race, as MM Racing reacting to the possible undercut from Matty. It doesn't look like it will be imperious enough of a threat from the Aston Martin to compete with this McLaren, as they limp down the pit lane now. They're hitting the pit exit before Matty even leaves the final corner. That is game over in this race, surely, unless Matty can do something and catch that McLaren, because the gap 5 seconds doesn't look like it's going to come down too much in this race. Make it about 4.5. Matty also has a penalty, so things will have to go in his way if he wants to get P1 in this race, because even though it says he's P3 and 4, provisionally take away the pit stops and then you have got it. But for KZ Matty, it will still be a stellar job, taking home about 22 points for second place here today, whilst Rocco only bagging about 10. That's still dropping the gap to about 15 in this Drivers' Championship. Matty is no stranger to fighting for titles, nor is Rocco. With, of course, Rocco, if you are unaware, one of your champions in CRL. He won the Legends Div Constructors and Drivers last season. So he's aiming to make it 2 seasons in a row in which he wins the Legends Div, whereas Fiora, on the other hand, they won the Drivers for Elite Div and aimed on winning that again to make it 2 consecutive winners, continuing the pattern in which has unravelled as of recent times. These 2 names being right on the top of their game. Admittedly though, Rocco has had a slight fall off, as getting right behind your mum as they tuck into the pit lane. Burger Boy also limping down the pit as they are changing onto the mediums. That's going to be interesting. Is that the Williams trying to put in a late bid to pursue the top 2 for this race? But Burger Boy third and in clear air. Your mum third, no, not third, 5th, and alongside Rocco. They're going to have to do a bit of battling between one another. Rocco doesn't give up a place easily. If Rocco is going to the end, he's going to fight it long as possible. But there you go. Your mum just straight up into 4th. Not really needing a second ask, as Rocco to the inside, getting ambitious, and has led to contact. A bit of an uncontrolled send from the Racing Bulls. It was a late lunge, and unfortunately, as Martin Brundle would say, he was a day late and $1 short in that attempt for P4, as it does make it quite clear that he was probably thinking of going as long as possible, as Pasty Smasher promoting himself up into P9 in this race. As I want to say that with the way things are going, this will be Sauber's joint second best points finish of the season, which is 13 points. The last time they salvaged that, it was Hungary in round 3 of this championship. But for the likes of Matty, Burger Boy and Racing, they are really taking home the major places. As you can see, they have checked out of this race, and your mum has solidified 4th place on their Legends Div debut, and they said it's probably a 1 or 2 race off thing, but that already escalates themselves up to about 15th in the Drivers' Championship. Maybe a bit lower, but that's the main thing. Major points for them and major reward for the Aston in Elite Div this Wednesday, where you are, as things stand, going to have me for another hour, which I know you are probably dreading, but who can't resist this voice? Yes, it's very unappealing, but tough. Deal with it, as people would say. But in this race, you don't really have any on-track battles as such, but Pasty Smasher in P9, looking at P8 now, joint on penalties with Tugger, and very much closing that gap down quite tightly in this race. 1.6 seconds as things stand, so we may end up seeing a late fight over 8th here today, as it does look like everything else is solidified in this event. As I've just got pinged, trying to work out what the hell is this all. As I'll be honest, we've just got some very lazy graphics as such for WRC. But we'll just have to bear with that. They will be posted on socials and that over the next few days. We are going to start posting on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, so do keep an eye on that. All the streams streamed here do get converted to YouTube every Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. So yeah, you will probably be able to find this on Wednesday around the Elite Div race start. Then you'll see the likes of the Elite Div on Friday, so on and so forth. But we really do need to start making promotional material as such. But now Pasty Smasher, half a second off of Tugger in this race. Thomas James has caught up to Rocco. He'll have to get by and pull out 6 seconds in order to take home P5 today. But otherwise it will be Rocco's for the taking. So we will have a look at how the Aston Martin does when the DRS comes around in about 2 corners. Time for them, but for not Shankly, Tugger and Pasty, they close in, but Pasty unable to get the move done. Thomas James all over the back of the Racing Bulls around the final corner. He's had that many a times with the Sauber of Shankly, who's very much out of this fight, but Thomas James looking to the inside, closes in on Rocco, doesn't go for the move though. Will use DRS again to climb up the hill. Does he wait or make the move? He will make the move and unfortunately hits the DRS line first. So I believe Rocco should open up that rear wing now, which the Racing Bulls does do so. They are going to be fighting for it like it's their life depending on it, as there was a late move there by Thomas James, who's going to pull off a switchback on Rocco, and that is P5 probably done and dusted for the Aston Martin man. Now the question will be whether or not they can pull out the 6-second margin in which they need in this race, as Pasty Smasher to the inside against Tugger. 2 great friends giving us a battle in the dying embers. It's not been much for them whatsoever. 8th and 9th, it's very little points for their team, about 5 4 for their constructors. Actually, I think it's 6 and 5, then it's 4, 2 and 1 down to 12th. But I think ILOE is at a point where it's like, cross the line and I'm getting Williams a point in this race. I really cannot complain, and it just looks better that we have all race finishers, as Tugger just holding on here, whilst Thomas James unable to pull away from Rocco. Talking about Rocco, he's made a move on the Aston Martin, tried holding it on the outside on the exit, but unfortunately didn't make it work, as Pasty and Tugger wheel to wheel through turn 3. Tugger on the outside of his his friend, and able to hold on, but Pasty to the outside for turn 4. And that's the Sauber up into P8. They will be happy about that. I'm certain of it. As Rocco, 3-second time penalty for multiple track limits for Thomas James. That means he just has to make it a 3-second margin come the end of the race. But does the Aston look like they've got enough pace? I'll be brutally honest, I do not think they do. They really caught up with Rocco quite quickly. Then it's almost like they've used those tyres in overtaking him, and now it's just became a stalemate as such, as the top man of Racing has entered their penultimate lap, while these guys are fighting on lap 34 of this race. But this is the McLaren, who looks like he's going to take it home as long as he doesn't go locking up into the gravel trap. And then second place will be this Williams of Burger Boy, and third will be KZ Matty, as long as Burger Boy manages to stay within that 3-second margin on the Aston Martin. I still think the Aston will be happy with gaining about 8 to 10 points on his championship rival of Rocco come the end of today. I personally would be happy with that from 27 back entering this event. But then I guess they can also see it as there could be much more done with it as such. But yeah, sometimes you have to take it how it comes. And they certainly will be taking it how it comes in the fight for 5th, as it would be Thomas James getting a penalty that demotes him behind Rocco Lieber. And then for Pasty and Tugger, it's still level, so however these guys finish is the way it will end in this race. But for Pasty, he fends off against Tugger. Do they do something cheeky and let Racing by, so then they don't do another lap, or would they much rather fight it out to the end? As you can see, there's the Sauber rear wing. You've got the Mercedes poised, but for the final time this race, it's Racing. He was a reserve back in Season 3 for the odd race or two. He won them all that he done. He returns for what could be another one-off, and will again take success here in Austria, take about Racing, as it's going to be KZ Matty who comes home second on track, but will finish third due to Burger Boy alleviating himself up of some pressure and takes home second place. Thomas James desperately trying to break the 3-second barrier, 7/10 in it. Don't think he'll do it in the final 2 corners, but we will wait and see on whether or not Thomas James can pull it off. But it doesn't look like it will be, as Pasty and Tugger unfortunately not able to swap places once more. Could we see an overly ambitious lunge from the Silver Arrow to take home P8 in this race? But they can be anything but mad with that result. It's a P4 and a P9. That is definitely some good points. But unfortunately, Aston Martin will be extending their championship as Tug gets 3 seconds, so that doesn't change anything in that race. However, that was a joyride to say the least. As Racing Bulls dropping even further back in the constructors compared to the Mercedes, as it does extend up top. Your race winner, Racing, fastest lap for Burger Boy, Pasty Smasher, your driver of the day, and the man with most overtakes. I'm not surprised. It's Rocco Lieber, as Tyler says. That's the best battle he's had in CRL, and that is probably one of the best battles I've commentated in CRL. Shankly versus Rocco Lieber. But your race results, the winner by 12 seconds is Racing over the Williams of Burger Boy, and then the Aston Martin of KZ Matty. Fair play to them all. Then it's your mum 4th, Rocco in 5th, Thomas James 6th, Shankly 7th, Pasty Smasher 8th, Tugger 9th, Ivanchek 10th, Turbo 11th, Hi Hello Yee in 12th. That's your point scorers. Then it's GDA Beast, you've got to love Nico, and Small Octopus, all failing to finish today. So, if you want to see more CRL action, tomorrow there'll be nothing. Wednesday you've got Elite Div. Thursday it will be Brian streaming the Rally of the Week. Then Friday will be my turn to stream the Rally of the Week. Then you look at Saturday, which is another off day. We may end up hosting a open lobby event, I don't know, but it probably won't be streamed on CRL. And then Sunday, you may be back with another POV of me for the F2 division, as I'm 20 points ahead, or you may see a live stream commentated by, I want to say, Alfie once more. However, do not, if you're a fan of the Legends div, personally, I would not go anywhere, because the drivers is heating up. That gap's dropped to about 15 points, but next week is Silverstone for the second sprint of the season. More points on the card, and definitely will be an interesting one to watch. As also on Wednesday you've got the Elite Div, where it's like a 5-way drivers and constructors. I'll briefly give a talk about the championship. To be fair, the drivers, it's 50 odd points in it, just due to Fiora being imperious there. But in the constructors, yes, Williams is running away, but then the gap between Haas in second and Red Bull in fifth, you've got only 11 points. But for now, that's been me. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Goodbye.